Our next session will be starting shortly, and it is on maritime drones. The session has an interactive online Q&A, and to post your questions, you can do so by scanning the QR code on the screen behind me. I would now like to invite the session moderator, Mr. Dennis Khoo, Director, Maritime Systems and Technology, and Chief Technology Officer, Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore. Mr. Dennis, please. He is joined by Mr. Sanjay Suresh, General Manager, Asia Pacific Skyports Drone Services. Mr. Suresh, please. May I also invite Mr. Ryan Lee, Chief Executive Officer and Co-founder, Heron Airbridge Private Limited. Mr. Ryan, please. May I also invite Mr. Tan Ka Han, Senior Director, Unmanned Systems Group, Chief Technology Officer, Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore. Mr. Tan, please. May I invite Mr. Hakon Elishai, Chief Commercial Officer, Pelagus 3D. Mr. Hakon, please. And Ms. Amel Rignio, Head of ZBox APAC. Ms. Amel, please. Without further ado, I'll now hand over the time to Mr. Dennis Chu. Over to you.
Thank you. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Dennis. I'm the Chief Technology Officer and Director of Maritime Systems and Technology in MPA. So today, I think we'll be having an open conversation and dialogue with my distinguished panelists on the topic of the development of drones and the use cases in Singapore port waters. I think before we begin, maybe I just invite the speakers to give a short introduction of themselves. Thanks.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sanjay. I'm the General Manager of Skyports Drone Services in Asia Pacific. Skyports is headquartered in the UK. We set up our second home here in Singapore as a regional headquarters for the APAC region. We've been operating in the maritime and offshore space where we run drone delivery and survey operations. We have our operations spanning across Europe, Singapore, where we run day and night surveillance, self-surveillance and deliveries, and also in Korea, where we operate from 2 different ports there. Very nice to be here, and thanks a lot to MPA for inviting us on board.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ryan. I'm the co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of Heron Airbridge, which is a Singapore tech startup. Our business revolves around a digital platform that is used for drone fleet as well as traffic management. So traffic management meaning that it can be used by drone operators for planning, routing for their drone operations. So our mission is really to provide this platform to enable the industry to really scale drone operations. Now today you see there's been a lot of drone users, drone demonstrations, proof of concepts, but these are pretty much still limited in terms of scale and in terms of the distance that these drones can cover. So what we want to do is to provide the solutions to solve 3 main problems when there's a need to perform a VLOS operations. First is the lack of information and situational awareness between the drone operators as well as the other stakeholders. Second is the fragmentation of the drone industry at this current moment. So, you have hundreds or maybe even thousands of drone types and software. So our platform provides the possibility to integrate on a singular platform for drone operations. And the third piece, probably one of the most challenging one, is to enable the drone operators, regulators, and other stakeholders to have a common platform to ensure that drone operations are performed safely and securely, and that the public is well protected. My focus is on the maritime space. I spent 18 years in the Navy, and captain ships a couple of times. So the maritime space is an area that's very close to my heart, and I hope that with my experience, I could actually enable maritime drone operations to really scale and make a difference to the industry. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Khan. I literally being sandwiched between the guys who produces drone and the guys who are going to use a drone. So I came from a regulator side. I spent most of my time flying aircraft in the military as well as commercial. In the last 15 years, I spent 10 years regulating the manned aviation. And the last 3 to 4 years, I moved across to regulate unmanned aircraft. So concurrently, I'm a Chief Technology Officer. And glad to be here, and it's an honor. Thanks, Dennis, for inviting. Thank you very much.
My name is Håkon Elkjær. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer in Pelagus 3D. And first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this esteemed panel. Pelagus 3D is not a drone company, but we are a company sharing the value proposition of drone operations, delivering a service that is faster, more sustainable than the traditional way. We are a company that is focused on enabling the transition to a digital supply chain for spare parts. So today we're serving maritime and offshore asset owners and operators, but also equipment manufacturers in producing spare parts on demand where and when needed through our global manufacturing network using 3D printing technologies. Most people think only polymer, simple parts when they think about 3D printing, but these are complex machines printing metal parts that can be meters long. So it's a huge opportunity in this space.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amel Rignaud. I'm the head of ZBox in APAC. We are an accelerator of innovation. We are funded by CMS CGM, but joined by 20 large MNCs all over the world. What we are doing, what our mission is to decarbonize and digitalize the supply chain globally. How we would do it? Simply gather large MNCs and help them to innovate through amazing startups like we have, with the help of the government representing here, and all the experts at university all over the world. We have 6 locations, 1 in US, 1 in Caribbean, 1 in Africa, 2 in Europe, 1 in Asia, and perhaps more are coming. And thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you. Thank you for the introductions. So maybe I just would like to start the ball rolling with Hakon. For those who are not aware, actually Hakon was already involved in shipshore delivery of water cooling pipes, 3D printed during the launch of our maritime drone estate back in 2021. So speaking of use case for drone deliveries, how does Pelagus 3D support or benefit from the maritime drone ecosystem? And why is this important for your business?
So I can take it from the perspective of an end user. So Equinor, the Norwegian oil and gas major, they are today stating publicly that 80% of the spare parts they have in physical inventories onshore and on board the platform is never used. And the reason why they have this physical inventory is because the cost of downtime is so high. And if they didn't have the critical spare parts there, the lead time would be too long. So they now want to use 3D printing or additive manufacturing, which is the industrial term, and drone deliveries as a way to ensure just-in-time deliveries, and by then reducing their physical inventory with 50%. So there's a lot of working capital tied up in inventories all around the world, and also from a sustainability perspective, not using 80% of your physical inventory is not a strong sustainability story. So in a way, this company, Equinor, has a vision to have drone hubs, which we currently operate together with 3D printing hubs, which are currently operating together with drone deliveries operated by Skyports to deliver parts just in time, providing significant savings to them, both from a money perspective, but also from a sustainability perspective.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for bringing it to drone operators like Skyports. So Sanjay, yourself, I think you are a UA pilot with more than 1,000 hours of flight time on various aircraft types. So can you share with us some of these exciting developments that Skyports is doing in the maritime drone space, say advanced air mobility? Yeah.
So yeah, maybe just since Hakon mentioned it, so Equinor is one of our customers, and just riding on that, what we're doing in the North Sea is actually delivering cargo from the port side to rigs, and also from rigs to rigs, and this is approximately 100 to 200 kilometers from shoreside. The drones are operating. I mean, if you're familiar with the North Sea, you have winds of 40 knots. So we have to find the right technology to be able to match that. And Skyports is what I like to call a drone airline, where we identify the best-in-class technologies that can meet with the necessary uptime, and then we match that to the environment we operate. In Singapore, we launched actually the last Singapore Maritime Week, we launched our commercial services covering shore-to-ship deliveries off the Port of Singapore, within the port boundaries. And this year, we're now expanding that service with a winch system that will allow us to operate to vessels that are higher risk, like tankers, chemical oil tankers, container vessels that come in. And it allows us to operate by reducing the need for the vessel crew to interact with the drones even more. And we get to deliver cargo to locations like the bridge wing, which are smaller in area, where the drones will not land in. And this is the advancement that we're moving into. And the next stage that we're looking at, a lot of our customers, as we scale up in different ports, have unique requirements like, can we look at deliveries to ships that are cruising past, not coming to a full stop? Do you have some have requirements to actually deliver cargo with a higher payload, 50 to 60 kilograms. These are more complex systems, which then we work with the CAAs to get the necessary type certification, etc., and then get approvals to operate them commercially.
Okay, so it's a good point that you raised, because you're right to say that the airspace is limited resource. So I think maybe I just want to bring attention to Ryan. I mean, first, congratulations on being the first Southeast Asian regional ambassador for the Global UTM Association. So, I mean, as a drone tech provider and integrator, right, how would Huron actually plug into this space where the maritime community could potentially benefit from some of the use cases that Sanjay talked about?
Okay, so I think coming from the airspace as well as drone operator management perspective, I think the use cases that Sanjay mentioned, right, are all possible. Right, we've been doing those things in the military for over 10 years in the Navy. The advantage the military has is, of course, is not required to comply with civil regulations, and they have really advanced technologies to make those things happen. So I think one of the things that needs to be, so as example, right, if you need to fly a drone in the maritime space, you could potentially cross the airspace of more than one nation, right? Especially if you're going to fly BVLOS. Now, how do you facilitate that? It's not. There's no simple answer, because you need the regulators to come together to agree on some kind of common protocol, and you need the technology to support the regulators in managing that airspace, right? So we have the technologies to support that, but we need the stakeholders to come together, sit on a table with the technology enablers to make this happen, to support the drone operators. Yeah. Okay. So I think I'll just keep it for now, and I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards.
Good. I think that's a good diversion to Kahan. I think he talked about regulation, right? So I think with your vast experience, you mentioned in the Air Force, you're no stranger to the challenges that face the manned aircraft and now the unmanned aircraft. So how does that help you and CAAS facilitate the adoption of drone technologies and their use cases, especially in the maritime sector?
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks, Ryan, for bringing out the point about cross-border. I think for us to support the use of drone, first is the mental model, that the way that we think from a safety regulator perspective, what should we do? In Singapore, for us, We know that beneficial use of drone is very, very important for the purpose of productivity, for example, for our industry, as well as safety. So our mental model is we will try the best that we can to facilitate. Then the question is how to do it. I can say in probably 3 key buckets. First is that the structure within CAS itself, how do we position ourselves. Second is to build capability because the technology is very new. We don't profess to know all the intricacies about the technology. Industry probably is better positioned than compared to us. So, but nonetheless, we need to build the capability as a regulator side to identify what are the key areas that we want to look at, whether it is a command line of sight, spectrum control, whether it's a propulsion, whether it's a unified control. We will build that. And thirdly is collaboration. When I say collaboration, it is because this space, it is not just faced by Singapore. You could see faced by many, many countries. It is just that the manifestation and the scale and complexity is a little bit different. For us, if you take a look at it, drone last mile delivery in the context of Singapore, the maritime area is probably one of the biggest use cases that we can do. That does not mean that we have not tried out the overland last mile delivery. Many years ago, we tried it out, but just that the customer, you know, Singaporean tend to be a bit more lazy. You want to drone deliver right to your doorstep when you live on high-rise condo. It's technically very challenging, and acceptance may not be there, the price point may not be there. So maritime definitely is one big part that we do. So we need to collaborate internally within the government sector. CAS is just a front. Anything that flies come under the jurisdiction of CAS. CAS fronted. But at the back end, we link up with all the government agencies that you may not see. Second, we also collaborate with the industry. The like of what Ryan has just said, the like of what Sanjay said. It is not about the technology. Technology itself is okay. The question is, if I want to certify it, to what level of safety assurance I want to. I can scale it up to the manned aircraft side, it will kill all the industry, or I can say I down-gauge it, but where is the balance? So that one we will collaborate. And at the same time, we collaborate internationally with our counterparts, whether the FAA, whether EASA, whether Malaysia, Indonesia, because some of those things, though it's very much contained within the country, but it's a matter of time it go cross-boundary. I circle back to the first point about structure. Many years ago, when we started this journey, drones, we regulate drones from very different units within CAS. Airspace side takes over, and airworthiness side, there's a safety side takes over, licensing, somebody takes over, facilitation, somebody takes over. But we decided that that is not the best way to do it. So we form a structure, what we call the unmanned system group, where we do 3 functions. One is regulation side, one is facilitation side, that one of my directors talk to the industry quite often to understand what the needs are, then we shape the regulation. Third is also operations. We also run counter drone within the airport, just in case we think that Changi Airport is kind of sanitized. Yes, it is somewhat, but we do have our own challenges. In 2019, we have people that fly to Changi Airport that disrupted 10,000 passengers and some aircraft that had to be diverted, but we set up counter drone units. So in one unit, we do all 3. It is probably one of the unique one that you probably won't see in any part of the world, that kind of structure. But we thought it is probably more efficient from the touch point with the industry perspective, at the same time more effective in the way that in which you regulate and kind of mitigate the risk. That's how we do it.
Yeah, thanks. I think I'm very heartened to hear that regulation today is actually quite actively being shaped by industry and commercial use cases. So I think, Amel, I mean, yourself, with experience as a tech incubator and accelerator, and your role as a board member in La French Tech Singapore to help governize startups in Singapore, what are your compelling views on maritime use cases that ZBox is looking out in the maritime sector?
So I just want to go back a bit. COVID period was an intriguing period because we noticed a lot of weaknesses, fragility, challenges on the supply chain in general, but at the same time, in the maritime ecosystem, the stakeholder has a lot of revenues. So there is an opportunity here, and they took it. Most of them took it to invest in new technology. And as we were saying, the maritime ecosystem was overlooked for many years. And deep or advanced technology was not really looking at this sector. But it's not anymore the case today. And ZBox, with this more than 20 corporate partners, we are running a lot of different pilots with robots and also drones. So on different areas, security, surveillance, to improve the assets production, to monitor, to improve the operations, autonomous delivery. Skyport is one of our startups, so in our community, and they are launching a lot of initiative and pilots around it all over the world. I believe in US with the ZBox, and soon perhaps in Singapore as well. On maritime safety, we have a lot of startups and a lot of corporates using those technology for monitor dangerous behavior or situation on port, on ship. We have also inspections. A lot of use cases and pilots are running with really advanced startups around inspection on shore, so to see and to look after defect on cranes, or even on ship, or inside the ship, inside of the engine room as well, with a really small drones. But today, I want to showcase another use case. Not really drones, but more robot, and with a huge impact on decarbonization and digitalization, is inspection and cleaning of the hull of the vessels. It's a huge use case, quite at the developing stage, but really intriguing, because the impact, according to the IMO, it's between 5 to 15% of energy consumption reduction. So it's quite an impressive use cases, and with a direct impact either on the cost, but also on the decarbonization. And why I'm taking these use cases is because it's full of different new technology and different capabilities. So you have different type of robot for inspection or cleaning. The robot can be autonomous or remotely connected and monitored. You have a lot of challenge around positioning, which is the same for the drones, but more challenging because it's under the sea. So you have dozens of sensors. So a lot of different capabilities needed and technology to really position your robots around the hull. You have also, you need also some technology around data analysis, image analysis, so to have all the mapping of the hull. So you can use also digital twin. So the inspection robot can define exactly and precisely where to clean. And afterwards, the cleaning robot will come and regarding the coating, regarding the floating all over the hull, he will clean it in the smart way. You have also the battery, which is the same for the drone as well, because it's a large robot. So they need a lot of power. And for that, the battery technology is really needed. So the lifespan, because it will take perhaps a few hours until one day to clean those large hulls. So it's still at the stage of the experimentation, far behind drones. But the impact can be really important in terms of cost and decarbonization, as I was saying. And we need also a lot of ecosystem, as for the drones So the manufacturer to be on board, all the type of technology, onboarding technology in the sea, AI for analyzing all the reports, computer vision, and so on. So really an ecosystem to build, and this is why ZBox is really interesting about those kind of use case with a huge impact, but also an ecosystem to build with the startups, with the government, with the large MNCs, and also manufacturer. All the ecosystem is around it.
Yeah, thanks, Amel. I think just want to keep this really interactive. So I think I see one of the questions raised by the audience. How would drones impact on safety and security applications in the port area? I think maybe just get Sanjay and Ryan maybe to chime in on this particular point.
Maybe I'll start first. So safety and security applications in the port area. It's a very broad question, but maybe I'll cover off what drones do to assist in improving the safe operations at sea. Something which we have been working with MPA on. To give you an example, we run our operations in Singapore for deliveries, right? But the drones we operate for deliveries do have a high-definition camera on board, which has a gimbal, which allows it to maneuver around, and you're able to also look out for activities that take place. One of the things that we worked with the Maritime Port Authority of Singapore is an exercise that MPA organizers called FEREX last year, where we, in this exercise, this was a bunch of scenarios were played where you have a ferry that is, smoking. You needed to evacuate the people on the ferry. The drones were operated to actually simulate as a first mover in to actually create that situational picture for the authorities. So you have a command center that is set up. The drones go out because the speed of the drones are much faster. They survey the area, they look at what is the incidents, they provide that feedback to the authorities, and then the authorities take the appropriate actions as the patrol crafts come in and support. So this is one area where drones are very useful to improve safety at sea. Then the other aspect of that question can be, okay, now drones are a new technology in the maritime environment, and we know there's 1,000 ships at any point in time operating in Singapore. Are the drones going to hit my ships, right? So if you take it from that angle, then that falls with, the technologies that Ryan's company has as well in terms of traffic management. In our case, what we do is we don't fly over any anchored ships. We operate in and around the ships. We use the AIS data, the information that comes in, to completely plan our flight path away from that, such that the only interaction is from the shore side to the ship that we are actually delivering to, and we do not even get overhead the ship until the master has said, okay, you're good to go. So it's an on-call, on-demand service where we then plan the flight route in and around. And if you look out, if you're out at Marina South, you will see the drones operating from there, and you would see them crisscrossing in between the ships to get to their destination.
Ryan?
Yes, I think the benefits of drones' impact on safety and security in port areas is well documented. So I think as Sanjay mentioned, we actually provide the technologies for port authorities to actually manage the drone traffic safely and securely. So we have actually integrated our technologies with one of the VTIS system to enable exchange of shipping traffic as well as potentially drone traffic, and to provide that situational awareness between drone operators as well as mariners, regardless of drone operators. And I think another area of concern is really there unauthorized drone operations. So again, the platform allows the port authorities, maritime authorities to monitor, authorized as well as unauthorized operations in those areas, and take enforcement actions as needed to ensure that safety and security of the maritime users enforced. Yeah.
Maybe, Dennis, I will try to combine all the questions relating to regulations. So there's a first question, there's a second part of the second question, there's a third part of the question. I try to combine it together. First, from a regulator perspective, safety, for sure, we look at it quite carefully. It's not just on the surface, but also in the air. And what happens if the drone flies away, especially in the certain areas that, coming close to Changi Airport, aircraft are coming in. So there's an air dimension of the safety, there's a ground dimension of the safety. Air dimension, whether it's maritime or whether it's on land, remains the same. On the ground dimension, then, and maritime is a little bit different from the land side. The land side for us is a lot of in Singapore context, there's a highly urbanized area, there's a lot of populations that are moving around, there are some shelter and stuff like that, but it is something that we're concerned with. But on the port side, it's about the ship, and maybe some of the operation side. The ship, different kind of ship has different characteristics. Some carry dangerous goods, some carry, but that remains with the maritime side to take a look at. So security is no difference whether you're from the land or on the sea. It depends on who wants to use the drones for what purposes. And the difficulty for security side is to identify the intent. It's not about just plotting the drone where it's flying, to identify the intent. So it's wider than just a UTM, but it's some other aspect that you need to take a look at. In connection to that, then the second question about how regulations need to adapt. I think in the unmanned space, we need to be very agile in the way that we promulgate regulations. And in agile in the safety realm, is in a way it's not a nice word to say, because safety side, you tend to be trying to get as much higher assurance as possible. But what we could do if we adapt the manned aviation concept into the unmanned side. I give you an example. The aircraft is airworthiness. How would you prove the airworthiness of the aircraft? And it's contextual to the risk. If I'm operating in an area that's very low risk, it's okay when it drops on the floor, it's fine, you're not going to injure anybody. But if I'm going to fly across the places where we consider as a high risk, very urbanized, where there are a lot of clusters of ships, then you and I will probably agree that the airworthiness of the aircraft needs to be a bit higher. That means the stringency increases. Then next is the pilot. Somebody asked a question whether there is a commercial, or whether there is you can make a profession out of a pilot. I would say when we introduced the unmanned aircraft pilot license about 3 to 4 years ago, today we have about 2,000 drone pilots licensed by Singapore, by us. So I could see the exponential growth. Well, of course, somewhere along the way it would taper off, but we could see the exponential growth. So the second part, not just about aircraft, but also the guy who operated it. What kind of proficiency do you have? Of course, we don't use it as a commercial pilot point of view, but we adapt it and to be realistic about it. Third, the operator themselves. Operator as in a company that operate it, do they have a safety management system to manage the drones, especially manage multiple drones that are flying around in maritime area? They must have that kind of risk mitigating measures to conduct operation. Example, when there's a thunderstorm, do you still want to go and launch the drones? In a high-risk area, you have to think twice, because the risk just increases exponentially. So there are all those adaptations that we needed to do. That connecting back to my previous point, I can't do it on my own, but I collaborate with the industry, collaborate with the other CAA to learn from one another. We share information among ourselves to try to be a bit more agile in the way that we make regulations, and to be progressive and to be fit for purpose. And the fit for purpose for us in Singapore is quite different from fit for purpose for somebody that who say railway, inspect railway in the, that one is okay, you drop on the floor, you're not going to injure anybody, I think that's fine. So the fit for purpose for us is a little bit contextual to what we do. Are there rules and regulations surrounding the maritime drones? Answer is yes, which is we govern that, we regulate that in collaboration with Maritime Port Authority. And how you're going to use a drone in a maritime environment, Maritime Port Authority has a lot to say. Whether ship to ship, ship to shore, and what kind of cargo you try, all those stuff, that belongs to Maritime Port Authority. But whether when we run the license or the permit for the guy to fly, and that is solely the remits of CAS. So I just kind of combine it in the interest of time.
Thanks, Kahan. I think you mentioned ship-shore delivery, ship-ship delivery. Just wanted to check in with Hakon. Maybe just a few words on this question. What are the main technological challenges facing the integration of drones in the maritime operations from Pelicus 3D's point of view?
I think from a drone expert perspective, I'll probably give that question to Sanjay, but I can take it from an additive manufacturing perspective. I think what's common with many technologies that are now entering the maritime space is that the challenge is seldom the technology. It's more barriers to adopt. It's more change management and shift of mindset. What we did specifically in Pelicus 3D is that we know the pain points when it comes to supply chain disruptions in the maritime industry. We see them every day. You have the minor ones and you have the big ones, such as low seawater levels in the Panama Canal or the issues that we're currently having in the Red Sea. So what we did is that we went to the end users, the asset owners and operators, and asked them, would you like a service where you can get parts on demand? So when you have, let's say, a pump impeller or an engine component that you don't get in time, that you can get it immediately through digital manufacturing and sending files to the point of location and manufacture it there. And of course, the question was, yes, we build up this end user base of 4,000 assets. And then we turn to the OEMs, because the OEMs are the ones that are important here, the original equipment manufacturers. They're the ones owning the IP of the parts, of the engine equipment, of the propellers, et cetera, et cetera. With 4,000 assets behind us, suddenly you prove to the OEMs that the market is demanding this type of service. So that was an important way for us to actually convince the OEMs and show the OEMs, but through offering a solution like this, they're also improving their own competitive positioning in the market and making that mindset shift in that regard.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe just circling back to Amel, I think in your view then, what do you see are some of the barriers to adoption and how might we collectively lower these barriers to create more innovation and value creation in this space?
So basically, I do a sum up of all the barriers and roadblocks that have been mentioned, but you're right. You were saying that the market acceptance, the change management is key. So communication is really important. Training is really important. Certification, because piloting a robot or a drone is a certain skills. Perhaps the gamers will be better in terms of piloting than any inspectors or experts around it. Scalability. Scalability of the technology. It's hard because you need a lot of different technology on many things. On communication, the network, because you have to communicate, so you have to have a really good bandwidth. The power, the processing power, the charging station, the image and data processing, a lot of different capability and in scale. So you need to onboard manufacturer, OEM, you need to onboard all those specialists around it to create an ecosystem so the technology can be and the infrastructure can be scalable. The third one that I will mention is the high cost. Unfortunately, we need more investment towards R&D, research and development, maintenance of all those kind of equipment, operation. So we need some support, perhaps from the private ecosystem, so VCs, CVCs as well, the venture capitals, grants, from the government to incentive the first mover. Because government has to step in when it's those type of technology which the impact is really important in the country. And as you were saying, regulation and safety, it's really more important.
Just to add on the point that the authorities and the government's reporting, I think when it comes to 3D printing, I think Singapore stood as an excellent example, establishing NAMIC, the National Additive Manufacturing Innovation Cluster, ensuring that Singapore is the #1 3D printing hub in the world, which also quite a big success, and you see hundreds of companies doing this in the country. And then MPA also picks up on this opportunity and launch joint industry program where they actually see who are the stakeholders that needs to be involved in order for this to succeed, and else help companies like ourselves really get started within the ecosystem and show that, you know, Singapore being the maritime innovation capital.
It's exactly that, to build an ecosystem where you have different capabilities, different bodies, so to push those type of use cases which are at the beginning of the stage, explorating sometimes, but or on the verge of commercialization. But you need that everyone will be around the table to push those kind of use cases, which is a lot of work.
Yeah, I think a lot of responsibility then lies with the regulators to enable all these use cases, right? Okay, I think we are coming to the end of the panel discussion. Maybe I just get the panelists to perhaps share, just in a really short, succinct manner, what one reason you are and you remain particularly optimistic about the future of drones and maritime drones? Yeah, Sanjay?
Well, as the operator, just very quickly, Singapore was amazing, right? Like Singapore was the area that we launched maritime drones, the entire market. So in 2022, we spent 12 months working with the CAS, the Port Authority, as well as vessel owners and agents here to actually trial this. 2023, we launched commercial operations, and then thereafter we scaled in Korea, we scaled in Europe, as well as now, this year, we now have a partnership with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. So Singapore has been the catalyst to grow this out. And increasingly, with the operations that we're launching out, we have to also have, you know, the OEMs, the aircraft manufacturers coming on board to customize the drones based on the learnings that we've had during the trials. These are the drones that would then fit for the maritime use case. And then we have to work with the industry, right? The maritime community to enable this service and complement this in both deliveries and inspections.
Ryan?
Yes, so what's keeping me excited is like actually happening outside Singapore at the moment. So we are exploring now establishing an office in the Netherlands to get involved with the maritime community in Europe to actually work on different new use cases, technology demonstration to the maritime community outside of Singapore. The other one is actually if you're monitoring what's happening in China. China just launched a low altitude economy strategy in recent months. So I believe, like electric vehicles and solar, that's going to really drive the technological as well as regulatory developments of drone operations across the world, not just in China. So, because the rest of the world, I believe, will have to start chasing them. So, I think it's good for startups now in this industry. We've been in a kind of doldrum over the last few years. Things are a bit slow, but I think going forward, things are going to start accelerating. Thank you.
For me, it's no doubt that this industry is an exciting industry, especially the use case in Singapore maritime area is really the big one for us. I put a challenge to those people who manufacture drones, try to help to address the safety concern, the air safety concern. If you can do a geofencing that you can prove to say that I'm 99.9%, if I give you a virtual box, you can contain within the virtual box. I think that's a good way to go. And I think there's a lot of exciting, innovative things that the industry can do to help to address that kind of safety concern. If you can do that, I think it is something that is a start. And the reason I say that is the drone is a small little one. The next one is an air taxi. The next one, in future, would I see a 320 carrying cargo unmanned totally? Answer is yes. The question is not if, but the question is when that will happen.
Akon?
I think I get quite excited about, just-in-time manufacturing and delivery really goes hand in hand. And seeing how, different solutions and how we need to work together also in the technology startup area to actually deliver a full service. That's the example of the Norwegian oil and gas operator who has this part of their vision. In order to actually remove physical inventory on board, you need to have just-in-time delivery. not only the manufacturing side. So it goes hands in hand, which is good.
Thank you. Amel?
So me, I'm very lucky because I'm in the middle of the innovation pushed by my clients. So the large MNCs who has amazing ideas, a lot of needs, and so on. So they are pushing. And on the other side, I have all the innovation technology, amazing ones. So agile, full of energy, full of development capabilities, and so on. So it's amazing time. If it's for drones, for robots, or for any advanced technology.
Thank you. I think maybe can I get everyone to give the panelists a round of applause for their... Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koo, and distinguished panelists. Please stay on stage for a group photo. Thank you. Please return to your seats off stage. Ladies and gentlemen, your next session is on investment and venture opportunities. The session has an interactive online Q&A, and to post your questions, kindly scan the QR code you see on the screen behind me.